Your manager sends you this supplier invoice list for the first half of the year, and their immediate question is, what's the total value? So you go to the bottom, add in a sum that adds up all the values and confidently report it's 118,492. But that total is wrong by more than 32,000, and Excel gives you no error message or warning. This is what messy data often looks like in Excel. It's not obviously broken. So today, I'll walk you through the data cleaning process in the order it actually needs to happen. By the end, this file will be easy to summarize with a pivot table or formulas, making your job quick, easy, and most importantly, accurate. If you want to practice along the way, download the file using the link in the video description or pinned comment. Let's start by holding down Control, left click and drag to copy the sheet in case something goes wrong. I'll rename it Cleaned, and this way we can compare it with the original, see what changed, and revert if necessary. Now, each row is one item on an invoice. That's why the same invoice reference can appear more than once. Two different items on the same invoice are both valid, and this will be important later when we look for duplicates. Now, press Ctrl A, scroll down, and you can see that Excel thinks the end of the data is on row 116 because row 117 is empty. To Excel, this looks like the end of the list, so shortcuts and table creation will only select the records above it. Let's press Ctrl- to get rid of that empty row. And then we also need to go to the bottom because remember that total we added earlier? If we turn this data into a table now, Excel will count and filter that total as though it were another transaction. So I'll delete that total because there should never be totals or subtotals in your source data. Now I can go to the Home tab, Format as a Table. I'm just going to go with this light style. It's detected that my table has headers. Click OK, and we can see the table name is Table 1. We can rename that Invoices. And this will just make it quick to reference and update any reports or analysis that I link to this data. Now, tables automatically include filters. And if we filter the depot column, you can see there are inconsistencies with the naming convention. For the depots with some abbreviated, we've got BNE instead of Brisbane, Mel instead of Melbourne, and so on. And if we look at the supplier column, there are also inconsistencies here with some supplier names containing extra spaces. And if I press Control and backtick, Excel temporarily displays the underlying values and formulas. The real dates appear as serial numbers, while the dates stored as text still look like dates. And if we move across, we can see the quantity and value columns have some numbers left aligned and some right aligned, which means some are proper numbers and some are text, and we'll need to fix these as well. So we've got a list of cleaning tasks to deal with, and we'll work through each one in turn. Let's start by cleaning the supplier names. Now, some spaces are visible, like the double space in Marlowe Steelworks. Others can sit at the beginning or end of a name. You can see here there's a space at the end of Trademark Supplies. These are much harder to notice, and because Excel treats text literally, these minor variations are technically two different values, which will be listed separately in pivot tables or make a lookup formula miss a name that's clearly there. We can use the trim function to quickly tidy this up. Simply trim and then reference the cell. Because it's in a table, it copies the formula down. All I need to do now is Ctrl-C to copy, go across to my supplier column, Ctrl-Shift-V to paste as values, and they're all cleaned up. Now I don't need this helper column, Control-Space to select it, Control- to delete it. Next, let's fix the dates. Remember, with Control-Backtick, we can see there are dates entered as text. I'll Control-Backtick again, and then a quick way to fix them is to select the whole column, then on the Data tab, Text to Columns. It doesn't matter here whether you choose delimited or fixed width, so click Next. Here we're not actually splitting the text, so I'm going to deselect Tab and click Next. And then here, I need to specify that it's a date, and then the format of that date. My dates are day, month, year, but you should choose the format of the date currently in the column. Yours might be month, day, year, for example. And then make sure that the destination is the first cell in your range because it's going to overwrite the data. And then finish. Now, if I Control-Backtick, you can see all of the dates are date serial numbers, so Excel will be able to read these correctly. A quick heads up, all my Excel and Power BI courses are 20% off until August 27, 2026. So if you want to go beyond individual YouTube tutorials, The courses give you complete step-by-step training in skills like formulas, dashboards, Power Query, pivot tables, and Power BI. You'll learn how to automate repetitive tasks and build reports you can confidently use at work, with direct support from me and certificates of completion you can add to your CV. You'll find the link in the description and pinned comment. Okay, next, let's sort out the numbers formatted as text. I'll start by making sure error checking is on. We go to the File tab, down at the bottom, Options, under Formulas, scroll to the bottom, and make sure under Error Checking Rules, numbers formatted as text or preceded by an apostrophe is checked, and misleading number formats. Click OK. Now I have green indicators for the cells that are text. So I'm going to select the quantity and value columns and then hover over any of the green indicators and it will offer to convert to. Click on that and job done. You could also use the text to columns tool for the numbers if you don't see the flags. Next, let's tidy up the depot names. Now we could build a lookup table, but for a one-off file with only 4 abbreviations to correct, find and replace is just as quick and easy. Select the column, Control H to open the Find and Replace dialog box. Let's do Sydney first, and we're replacing it with Sydney, the full name. Now I want to match entire cell contents so that I don't replace SYD in the names that already say Sydney. I'm only replacing it where it's the 3-letter abbreviation. Let's replace all, and that's done. And then simply repeat for Brisbane, Melbourne, which was MEL, and should be Melbourne, full name. And finally, Perth, which should be the full name. Okay, let's just double check the drop down, and now we only have the 4 full names. Now keep in mind, if this were a data entry sheet, I'd also recommend adding a data validation drop-down list for the supplier, depot, and status columns to prevent ongoing inconsistencies. But this is a one-off task, so I won't set them up here. Next, the item code looks tidy, but it holds 3 separate pieces of information. Elec 100 SID means the category is electrical, the item number is 100, and the depot is Sydney. Now we already have the depot information in column D, but adding the category in a separate column would allow us to analyze the data by category as well. And there are a few ways we could tackle this, but since it's the first 4 characters of each item code, I can simply use the left function. So let's add a new column for the category. And here we're going to use left to take the item code and extract the first 4 characters. And then I'm going to select all of those formulas, Control C to copy, Control Shift V to paste as values. Of course, if you're expecting to add new data to this table, you'd leave the formulas as is, so any new data automatically has the category extracted. All right, now we can deal with duplicates. Remember, the invoice reference number by itself is not unique because one invoice can contain more than one item. On the Data tab, we've got Remove Duplicates. It's detected that my data has headers, and then we can tell it which columns to include when checking for duplicates. I want to check for whole rows, so I'm going to leave them all checked and click OK. And it found 10 duplicate values and removed them, so we've got 220 unique values remaining. So that's super easy. Now the status column contains some blank cells. Let's select them, and you can see we already have TBA here, so let's fill them with TBA. Select the range, and then type in TBA and Control Enter. Let's clear the filter, and now we have no blank cells. So the next person to use this file will know those line items also need attention. The last step is to check the values column is free from errors. I'm going to add a formula here that checks that the values are indeed numbers. So just using the isNumber function, close parentheses, and now we get trues where the value is a proper number and false where it's not. However, I want to be able to add up these true and false values in the pivot table. So I'm going to edit the formula, and after the equal sign, I'm going to add 2 minus signs, which is known as the double unary, and this coerces those trues and false values into their numeric equivalents of 1 for true and 0 for false. Now you should technically repeat this for the quantity column, but in the interest of time, we're just going to check the value. And let's rename this check value. Now I can insert a pivot table on a new sheet, and I want the depot in the rows, I want the value in the values area, and I want it in there again because this one I'm going to right-click, summarize values by count, and then I'm going to put the check value in the values area as well. Now the count of the values and the sum of the check value should be equal, which they are. This tells me that all the numbers in the value column are indeed proper numbers. I don't need these two helper columns anymore. I can left-click and drag them out. And now we can report the values by depot and be confident our report is correct. Now remember, the original total was 118,492 because Excel ignored the invoice values stored as text. So after cleaning the data and removing the duplicate records, the correct total is 151,320. You've now seen how to find and fix many of the most common problems in an Excel dataset. Download the practice file from the description and work through the steps yourself so you know what to look for in your own files. But if you receive the same type of file every week or month, you shouldn't repeat all this manually. That's when it's time to use Power Query to automate the cleaning process and refresh everything with one click. Watch this video next and I'll show you how.